All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at the Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. We are going to dig into some Eastern Conference film today, and I'm going to be zooming in on the run where the Knicks snatched this game back after a 22-point fourth quarter deficit. I'm focusing on this run for a couple of different reasons. Yes, there are some dynamics we talked about with Josh Hart on the floor and the layered rim protection with the Cavs, but regardless of whether or not it ends up being Josh Hart hitting shots finally, or if it ends up being this lineup with Landry Shamet in that Hart spot, this is going to more or less be the chess match. It's going to be some combination of Mobley Allen, Mitchell Harden, and either Merrill or Strus or Wade as that third guy, most likely Strus or Merrill. And it's going to be the core four Knicks players in Towns and OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson, most likely with Landry Shamet, especially given the way his quickness was able to kind of match up with Donovan Mitchell more. Even above and beyond anything necessarily having to do with Josh Hart on offense, he just didn't do a good job guarding Donovan Mitchell. You guys will see in this footage, Landry Shamet just defends Donovan Mitchell extremely well. He's quicker laterally than Josh Hart. He's big and strong enough to not be overpowered by him. And he's actually got some length that can bother him on the pull-up jump shot. So I think this is probably going to be our core five guys. I think Merrill kind of struggled a little bit with some of his driving against the hedge and recover scheme. So it may end up being Strus at some point, but it's going to more or less be the same type of dynamic. So I'm going to zoom in on the chess match between these two groups of five down the stretch of this game. We're starting with the first Jalen Brunson attack of James Harden that started the run. On this play, I thought James Harden just kind of took a bad angle defensively and was overplaying the jump shot a little bit. So very simply, we get into our traditional 4-out spacing, right? So we have Landry Shamet in the corner, Mikal Bridges in the corner, OG Anunoby with Karl Anthony Towns. OG is setting the screen pretty consistently as they are trying to get into these Brunson attacks of Harden. As you can see, Brunson just with his feet right here, when he lunges forward, he just is overplaying the jump shot a little bit, which is getting himself out of position. Brunson's able to easily get right around him. That's a relatively easy floater. I'm going to be highlighting the difficulty of these shots because I think it matters when we discuss the final few plays of regulation. This is Landry Shamet's individual defense on Donovan Mitchell. You guys can see. Look at the difference in the quickness. This is a play, and you're going to see a very similar play with Jalen Brunson rejecting a screen with Dean Wade on him here in a little bit. But watch how when Donovan Mitchell goes to reject the screen, because Brunson's getting ready to throw a hedge on this other side of the screen. When he goes to reject, Landry Shamet just beats him to the spot, absorbs the contact, nothing. Play is dead, right? Then we're going to throw the ball to Mobley, and Shamet gets back in front and takes a charge. Really nice defensive play from Landry Shamet. So on this play, this is a play where Harden is getting attacked by Brunson again, and he actually makes a nice play defending this, blocking it with his long wingspan, swats it, but Max Strus just stops paying attention, loses Landry Shamet on a cut to the top of the key, and Landry Shamet makes him pay by hitting the three. Probably a big part of why Landry Shamet, or why Max Strus didn't see the floor the rest of this stretch down the stretch of the game instead of Merrill. This is actually a really nice move from Donovan Mitchell. He breaks the shit out of Mikal Bridges' ankles with a crossover. Look at this. Look at this move. Look at Mikal. Just touch the earth. And then, like in a couple different things here, Mitchell probably could just slow down a little bit and settle into this gap and either take a little mid-range jump shot or just wait for the play to develop a little bit. Harden is open. He just throws a legitimately terrible pass out of bounds. Here's another play where Brunson beats Harden off the dribble and drops it off to Cat in the dunker spot. So we get the ball screen, we get the switch. Beats him with that right to left crossover. Harden can do a little bit better job here. I thought he just kind of froze a little bit on the in and out, or on the crossover dribble. Like, watch him just freeze. Once again, he's taking these 2 steps forward, which is getting his weight off balance going the wrong direction. So I think in general, James Harden just kind of overplayed the jump shot a little bit early, and it gave up a little bit too many of these drives. Allen steps up, drop off to Cat, reverse layup. What you're going to see here is an example of the way that the Knicks protected Brunson that the Cavs can explore to try to protect Harden. So we get a ball screen that gets Mitchell switched on to Brunson. Look at Mikal Bridges in the gap. Bridges is in the gap. Mitchell drives at him, and Mikhail just throws a really good closeout. Bam, advantage gone. There's a little bit of a stunt from Shamit too. See the stunt from Shamit, and then he's back. The really good defenses are especially good at this dynamic, making it look like there's an advantage. It looks like Harden's open. And Mitchell does his job driving into the gap. Now he could probably drive a little bit further before making that kick and actually making Mikhail commit. That's the best way to try to counter it. You'll see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander do that a lot. He'll try to split that gap with like a low gather or a high gather. Mitchell could even go to one of his like windmill gathers to try to get over that. But you need to try to split that gap to create a bigger opening. But instead, he just kind of drives at Mikhail and they rotate out of it. But that's an example of a way that we could see the Cavs attempt to protect Harden. Harden ends up going to a step back three or step back jump shot over Mikhail Bridges in the mid range, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So this is that play that I was talking about that was identical to the Shamit play where we reject the guard screen. So we're getting ready into the guard screen. As you can see, the help is on the right side of the screen. So if Brunson goes the opposite way, there's a lane there. But this is the difference between Dean Wade and Landry Shamit. Dean Wade just gets beat. Brunson turns the corner and he's able to get to the scoop shot layup. That's the difference between what Shamit did, which was beat Mitchell to the spot, versus what Wade did, which was allow Brunson to turn the corner. That's why, like we were talking about it last night, like sometimes the solution is just do a better job. You got to do a better job than you've been doing in these sequences. So the shots that we've seen Brunson hit to this point are relatively easy shots. But now we're getting into a point, again, up 14 with 5 minutes left. We're getting into a point where Brunson starts to hit some really tough ones. This is we're going to a straight switch here. So we just straight up switch Harden onto Brunson. This is good defense from Harden. Stays attached, forces him into a really tough bank shot. He just makes it. Like tip of the cap. That's a tough shot. That's better than anything else you're going to give up in a situation like that. So it's trimmed off of this clip, but there's a backcourt screen. You can actually see it if we go forward here. Dean Wade sets a screen in the backcourt that gets Mikhail Bridges switched off of Harden. So now we have Harden on Brunson. Then they bring Cat into the screen. This is another thing that I think the Cavs can explore here to try to get better shots with the defense and rotation. Just get Brunson onto the ball handler and then bring Cat into the screen. What they end up doing is basically blitzing, and that creates this easy 4-on-3. Mobley makes the right play. Allen draws the foul. Allen just proceeds to smoke both free throws right after this. So good execution, just didn't knock down the shots. Another tough bucket here for Jalen Brunson. We get the switch. Harden slides his feet well. That's a tough shot from Brunson. And again, like this is why I was saying on that final sequence, like why not make Brunson go 3 for 3 on those instead of allowing easy catch and shoot threes to tie the game? This was an interesting play where they try to attack Brunson in the screen and Wade rolls out. But what do you guys see here? Watch how Wade sets the screen. They force the hedge and recover from Brunson. Wade slips out and is wide open. But what do you guys see here? Look at this trash ass spacing. And a big part of this comes down to the bigs. Watch Jared Allen and Evan Mobley just jog up the floor. And they're trying to run action, and these guys aren't set. So, like, either Wade needs to chill and wait for everybody to get in position if that's your goal. If you're trying to chill and eat clock, fine, whatever. But, like, the timing of this is all off because Wade and Mitchell are going, and Allen and Mobley are still in chill mode. And so when Wade slips, he slips right into the same space that Mobley's in, and now the advantage is gone. So then, since the Brunson hedge and recover fails, then they go after Karl Anthony Towns. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting here, we're going to see 2 of these ball screens where they attack Cat in drop coverage. But as they're attacking Cat in drop coverage, Mobley ends up open in this like kind of short roll spot here around the elbow. And Mobley's going to go 0 for 2 here. Here he's going to try to drive at Cat and he's going to fail and have to get rid of the basketball, which turns into a bad Harden step back 3, which I think he airballs. And then there's another one, which you guys will see in a minute, where he just misses a shot. So like that, I think is a big part of why Mobley started popping, because the kind of roll into that elbow area, he just wasn't scoring. And a big part of this is like, you know, Mobley's got to become a player that you can't just put 2 on the ball in a drop coverage against, against the ball handler where he's not a threat to score. He's got to find a way to score there. This is another, I thought, really difficult shot from Jalen Brunson. Harden sliding his feet. I think that's good defense. He banked in a tough, like smothered 13-footer. Look at the defense from Shamit on Mitchell. Let's start this over. Watch how he's active, chopping his feet and beating him to spots. Then they get into the ball screen with Cat. Once again, they're no attempt to try to bring Brunson into the screen at all. And then I thought Mitchell just went early here. You're up by 8. There's 14 seconds on the shot clock. Let's get a good look. And instead, he just kind of goes to this really tough step back 3. Makeable, but I just thought it was a little bit of a settle early in the clock. Here comes the next super tough Brunson pull-up jump shot, this time from 3. And this was a big part of why I thought there was a little bit of an overreaction from Kenny Atkinson. That's a tough bucket. You're going to see a couple examples here of attacking the hedge and recover with Jalen Brunson with Merrill slipping out of the screen. And one of the things I talked about in last night's show is Merrill just not being aggressive enough on the catch here. Here's a perfect example. So he slips out of the screen. He's the open man. Mitchell makes the read. Mikal Bridges rotates, and we get a little bit of a drive, but there's no attempt to continue to probe the drive. Like on the catch, and look at how Mikal Bridges is closing out to the passing lane too. That is something that we saw later in the game as well. Mikal Bridges this is a textbook passing lane closeout. The entire purpose of it is to bait Merrill into thinking he's closing out on him when the reality is he's getting into that passing lane so he can't throw the extra pass to Harden in the corner. But then when he starts to probe with the drive, he just immediately picks up his dribble and throws it to Evan Mobley again, which is like if Evan Mobley's wide open on the catch, sure, whatever. I just didn't think enough of an advantage was created there yet. Mikal Bridges is fully on his side. So like just take another dribble and attack into here. And you're either going to draw both of these guys and create a wide open catch and shoot 3, or Cat's going to close out here. And all you have to do is just put something up on the glass. And now Jared Allen is going to have an offensive rebound opportunity or a lob dunk opportunity, right? So like Merrill just not aggressive enough driving against the hedge and recover. What's crazy though is even with that, they're still able to create advantage, right? So close out on Mobley, another throw to Merrill. He gets a closeout against Mikal, beats the closeout again, gets into the lane, and still generates a decent look for Mobley that he knocks down. But my thing is like Mobley hitting a 3 is probably our last option in a situation like that. I think you can get an easy 2 either from Merrill in the form of a floater or a lob dunk to Jared Allen or an offensive rebound opportunity to Jared Allen if Merrill just looks to probe that first drive a little bit more against the hedge and recover. Today's show is brought to you by presenting sponsor Hard Rock Bet, Florida's sportsbook. The second round of the NBA playoffs is here, where the lights are brighter, the pressure is higher, and every possession can change a series. And at Hard Rock Bet, every night is your shot to score a major bucket. With win or go home energy on the hardwood, I love building same game parlays. You might like the hot hand to drop 30, the big man to control the glass with a double-double, and the point guard to dish out 5 assists. However you draw it up, Hard Rock Bet gives you tons of ways to stack your picks into a same-game parlay built for the playoffs. If you're ever late for tip-off, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet lets you live bet all game long from the first bucket to the final buzzer. Try your first bet on Hard Rock Bet today, and you can score $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but also an extra $150 in bonus bets. Hard Rock Bet has new promos daily, so open up the app right now to see what promo you've got today. And sure, Hard Rock Bet is Florida's only legal sportsbook, but you don't have to be in Florida to join the party. Hard Rock Bet is also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan, with more states on the way. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today, and let's get the party started. So now we're going to see a change in the coverage. There was a lot of conversation during the game about how there was no attempt for the Cavs to like make an adjustment on what they were doing with Harden. They did. They ended up switching to essentially what is a drop coverage with ice, right? So essentially Sam Merrill is, as you get the screen from OG, what looks like they're going to set a screen. Look at how Merrill has his stance open, forcing Brunson towards the baseline side with Harden in a drop coverage. That basically ended up being the coverage they ran here over the next few minutes. This is an adjustment technically. So they pitch back to what's always open against a drop coverage, the pick and pop, right? So OG Anunoby's wide open on the pop. There's no reason to set the screen because he's icing it. He's forcing him towards the sideline and giving the angle. Harden throws a closeout, pump fake, drive. draws a foul. Okay, so the Knicks counter the drop coverage with the pick and pop. Now they make an adjustment again. We just saw the drop coverage turn into the pick and pop. Well, what if we rotate to the pop from the weak side? Once again, Merrill open stance towards the sideline. OG pops. Look at Mitchell. Mitchell's now splitting the difference between Shamet and OG, and he throws a closeout. As a result, OG's not open. Shamet probably throws a little bit of an unnecessary cut here. Like if as Brunson's driving, the best thing that you can do here is OG relocate a little bit here and Shamet make himself available here. You probably can get an open three. But this is defended really well. They end up throwing it to Mikal Bridges in the corner. We get a closeout from Mobley. Mikal Bridges drives the closeout and just hits a tough contested step back three. Like that's a really, really tough shot. So the coverage actually worked pretty well because Shamet cut off of the wing and kind of made himself easy to guard by putting himself in the middle of the floor. But you're seeing the Cavs try to adjust to that pick and pop by rotating from the weak side. Now we're going to see Merrill hold the ball against the hedge and recover again. So we get the screen. Brunson throws the hedge. Merrill's open. Same passing lane closeout from Mikal. See, closes out into the passing lane, but he holds the basketball. First of all, he's popping too far away. He needs to pop into this range where he's immediately a threat, but then he catches and holds the basketball. Now the advantage is gone. That's the thing where Merrill in many ways is equally responsible for them ceasing to attack Brunson because he just wasn't doing a good job of beating the hedge and recover by putting himself in position to quick catch and either shoot or catch and drive. Harden gets a tough catch and shoot three that he misses. So now we're going to get that same drop coverage look. The geometry of the floor is a little different. This time, Mikal Bridges in the right corner, right? Shamet's in the left corner, so the spacing is a little bit better. Now it's a much longer closeout for Evan Mobley. See that? And so on the pick and pop, OG Anunoby is wide open. There's no closeout from Evan Mobley like we saw from Donovan Mitchell in the previous possession. He pump fakes and gets right around James Harden. And then Karl Anthony Towns makes this boneheaded mistake and just yanks Jared Allen. Tried to sneak it on the ref, couldn't sneak it. There's that famous quote from like Kobe Bryant that he talked about, like how he used to pay attention to where the refs were on the floor to see if he could get away with fouls. Karl Anthony Towns doesn't seem to notice that there's a ref that has clear view of him yanking on Jared Allen. So not a great one. They both saw it too. That's the funny thing. So this was an example of Donovan Mitchell beating Shamet on a rejected screen. One of the things I thought he did better here was actually with the in and out dribble with that kind of double cross. So see, he's got the ball in his right hand. He crosses left and then right, which actually gets Shamet to engage with the screener a little bit. By engaging with the screener a little bit, it's a contact situation. It's harder for him to recover. That way, Mitchell's actually able to turn the corner on Shamet. Because he's able to turn the corner on Shamet, he's able to engage OG Anunoby at the rim. Because he engages OG Anunoby at the rim, now Jared Allen is inside position against Mikal Bridges. He gets an easy putback. But again, easily their best shots were when they were attacking Brunson. And that was even with Sam Merrill on one of the hedge and recovers just holding the basketball. And on the other, having a bad drive, but it still created a advantage situation that they converted into an open catch and shoot three for Mobley. Another drop coverage rep. This time they go towards the middle of the floor, so no ice. But they Merrill gets caught on the screen. They're in the drop coverage. Pitch back to OG. He just misses the three. But a good look. And OG was kind of a little bit out of rhythm throughout the night. Here's the second time where we see Evan Mobley fail to score on the short roll. So we get Mitchell attacking Cat and drop coverage. He hits Mobley in the pocket. He just smokes the jumper. And it's like, I think him missing or failing to score on those two opportunities is what triggers him starting to pop the rest of the way. So look at the clock. We have a minute and 22 seconds left. It's 99-93. In order for the Knicks to tie this game, Jalen Brunson would need to beat an ISO for either step back threes, which you can control by overplaying the step back three, or by driving into into traffic in the lane and hitting three tough pull up jump shots. Instead, Harden doubles Brunson right away, then comes out of the double and then like soft doubles. And in that soft double, it's just a super easy read for Brunson. And again, the only way you were losing this game is by allowing multiple open catch and shoot threes where you can tie the game in 2 possessions versus tying the game in 3 possessions. Once again, you just got a good look going at the Jalen Brunson hedge and recover. And now instead of going at that again, we're going at Cat and drop twice, which didn't work because Mobley couldn't finish. And now Cat's going to actually just straight up block Donovan Mitchell and block his floater. Great defensive play from Cat. And then here we're doubling Brunson again. With Harden, swing, easy wide open three for Shamet on the right wing to tie the game. So again, you allowed them to tie the game in 45 seconds by turning them into an open catch and shoot 3-point shooting team instead of making Brunson beat you in ISO. Now we're back at attacking Brunson. And James Harden methodically works him down for an easy 2. Keep that in mind because he settles here in just a minute. What's funny is now we're being smart about time and score. Okay, we're up 2. We don't want to give up a 3 that beats us, so we're going to let Brunson cook one-on-one and overplay the jump shot. Harden's way out on the 3. Brunson goes right around him and ties the game again. But again, it's like that's the right approach there, but that's the same thing that you should have been doing on the previous 2 possessions. Another way to look at it is like this. That was the 3rd possession for the Knicks, right? In their 3rd possession, they went 3 for 3, but they hit a 3, and a 2. Harden scores against Brunson. So technically, Brunson would have had to make 4 2s if you would have stayed in your coverage in order to tie the game. Here, Merrill is nice and aggressive against the hedge and recover. Gets a pretty good look. Mike Breen almost lets out a bang. Now we're going to overtime. Back into the drop coverage reps against Brunson with Harden. I thought this was just a bad closeout from Evan Mobley. We talked last night about understanding your rotation sequences. I talked about how, like, if you rotate up from the corner, then Jared Allen needs to rotate out to the corner, which they do here. They're in drop. OG pops. Mobley rotates. Allen rotates. Here's the problem. Evan Mobley doesn't trust that he's got someone rotating to his man. So he throws more of like a passing lane closeout, and he's on OG's side, which then gives up the drive. If this has been discussed in the overtime timeout at the end of regulation, he should be like, I know Jared Allen's rotating to my man, so I need to contain Mobley. But instead, he goes right around. And then Harden here, kind of just floating in no man's land. He needs to expect this drive and be in better position to try to take a charge. Instead, he's late and commits the foul on the dunk. All right, so we're not okay with the pick and pop anymore. So we're going to go back to switching. This is just a bad defensive rep from Harden. Merrill's in the gap. What that means is if Brunson drives left, but Harden is solid and he flattens out the drive just a little bit, he allows Merrill an opportunity to force him to pick up his dribble and maybe throw one of those closeouts like we saw with McHale. But instead, Harden isn't solid. He reaches on the right to left crossover, and Brunson is able to get to an easy floater. Watch this defense from Shamet. Ball pressure, keep him in front. Unbelievable defense from Landry Shamet. For all the talk about, it's funny, I was talking last night about Mitchell off the ball. The denial from Shamet really wasn't as big of a deal. It was more just Shamet was doing a really good job on Mitchell, and I think that's why they ended up going to Harden more. Now, Harden's going to get another chance, and this time he's going to actually sit in a defensive stance and slide his feet instead of reaching. Watch what happens. Slide your feet. Don't just swipe at the basketball. Slide your feet. Beat him to his spot. Now you draw an offensive foul. And even if he doesn't get that call, you're at least forcing him into a tough contested jump shot. Now, this was a couple things here. First of all, watch Donovan Mitchell. As you can see, no real attempt to get the ball here. This isn't denial. Mitchell's just not going to get the ball. We're running through Harden. Mobley has just smoked 2 shots on the short roll, so now he's popping. Good look for him. Just wasn't making them. Now we're going to see them try to gap and help Harden again. So let's fast forward here. We go up the floor. We get the screen. The screen gets the switch. Now Harden is on Brunson. We're in the gaps, right? Allen's in the gap right there. But we just get a couple of sloppy closeouts. Mitchell just jumps out of the frame. Okay. Allen closes out on his side instead of trying to get back in front of him, which creates an easy little driving angle. And then watch Mobley. Like, what is Mobley doing here? Like, he looks surprised that OG's coming at him. Like, you're one of the best defensive players in the world. Stop OG Anunoby from getting an easy layup there. Now we get a switch. A couple things here first. This time, Mitchell does kind of call for the ball, but he's not cutting towards the ball. He's just standing there with his hands up. Cut towards the basketball and say, give me the damn basketball if you want the basketball. Now he kind of jogs towards the ball a little bit. Harden gets the switch onto Brunson with the action. So now we got our one-on-one. Okay, fine. This is okay. Harden bullied Brunson for an easy 2 last time. Nope, we're settling for the step back 3. Switch and double. Now we're coming out of the double. Now we're back in the double. After he picks up his dribble, Harden rotates out. The pass comes to OG and he drives. Harden just happens to strip OG Anunoby off his leg there. So now Mitchell gets the ball in the inbounds. We're going to play through Mitchell. This is great defense from Shamet again. On the ball screen, like, I understand that Cat is there and Mobley is open, but he doesn't necessarily need to be. I thought Shamet was on his way to get back in front there. But anyway, it is the right read, and Mobley just misses the shot. But again, like when you're running pick and pops against Cat, that is the read, right? Like that's what you're going to get. That's what the coverage beater is. Whereas when they went at Brunson, they were able to get the hedge and a kick out to a shooter or a switch and an opportunity to attack him one-on-one. I just thought they got better looks when they went at Brunson and they just kind of went away from it. Kind of a crash off the top here from Mobley. Like Mobley's not getting this basketball, yet he runs forward for it and kind of gambles, which then sparks a 4-on-3 fast break going the other way. Harden runs towards McHale. Shamet's wide open. Game over. The Cavs need to have some sort of plan to protect James Harden. Obviously, on the sequence to end the game, I thought they should have let him go one-on-one against Brunson because he just could have had a lot of margin for error. Like you can go 3 for 4 and you win that game because he gets 6 points and they needed 8 points, right? Because Harden hits that little step back. So yes, at the end of regulation, I thought that was the wrong call from Kenny Atkinson to double team the ball out of Brunson's hand. Or if it was Harden on that one possession and then it was the coach on the next possession, whoever you want to blame there, they shouldn't have been double teaming. The rest of the way, though, I think the key is whichever coverage you run, you have to execute better. So if you're going to switch with Harden, Harden needs to slide his damn feet, sit in a stance, right? If you're going to gap hard, then the guys need to be in the gaps. Harden's got to slide his feet, and you got to rotate well out of that. If you're going to run the drop coverage, everyone's got to be on a string in rotation. If you're going to double the ball out of his hands, everyone's got to be on a string in rotation. So, like, the key is, regardless of which direction they decide to go, to try to either protect Harden or allow him to defend one-on-one, there just needs to be a lot better execution around that defensively in order to make the coverage work. On the other end of the floor, if Mobley doesn't have his jump shot going, then you can't really go at Karl Anthony Towns because then he can get away with running a drop coverage. So the key to one of the things too with the reason why Mobley has to pop there is literally because Allen's in the dunker spot. So you have to go with your too big look because it gives you your best chance to compete physically. But if you go to your too big look, it turns Mobley into a jump shooter. If Mobley's jump shot isn't going, then your best bet is to go at Brunson because then you can get into your high-low spacing off of those sequences instead of Mobley just strictly acting as a jump shooter. So again, I think those are the main adjustments I would expect from the Cavs, just like a mixing up of coverages on Brunson with better execution and then a more of an intentional effort to try to keep putting Brunson in action. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. We will be back tonight after Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. I hope to see you guys then.